Most schools don't have an information problem. They have a decision problem. And at the end of every school year, we gather feedback, we review data, we discuss successes, we identify challenges. And then in many cases, we walk into August carrying the same conversations we had the year before. Not because people aren't paying attention and not because people don't care, but because reflection by itself doesn't improve schools. Decisions do.
This is Your Morning Boost, recorded in the Forward Ed Network studios. A weekly spark for educators and school leaders ready to lead, teach, and live with greater intention. This is Your Morning Boost.
Welcome to your Morning Boost, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and welcome here to the Forward Ed Network. We're excited to be part of the Forward Ed Network. If you haven't had a chance to leave us a rating or review or subscribe, please do so as soon as you get the chance. That would certainly help us grow our audience. This is the podcast that's built for educators and leaders who want practical ideas, meaningful conversations, and better ways to move the work forward. So I'm so glad you're here with me today. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important leadership opportunities of the entire year. That's not closing the year. That's learning from it. And more importantly, deciding what comes next. Because some of you listening are still finishing school. Some of you have already turned in grades, locked your classroom door, and started summer. But regardless of where you are on the calendar, this is the season when leaders begin shaping next year. And the quality of those decisions often depends on how well we make sense of the year we just experienced. Every school reflects, at least most schools try to. Leadership teams will look at assessment data, departments will discuss goals, teachers will complete surveys, and administrators will gather that feedback. The problem is that many of those conversations stop at that information gathering. A principal asks staff what worked, and people answer. The principal asks what didn't work. People answer. Notes get collected, charts get created, somebody will probably build a slide deck, and then everybody goes home. And somehow nothing really changes in that. And the reason is really simple. Information is not the same thing as insight. A list of observations isn't a conclusion, and a conclusion isn't a decision. I worked with a leadership team several years ago that was really frustrated by staff communication. When they asked teachers about the issue, they received pages and pages and pages of feedback. People said communication was inconsistent. Others said there was too much communication. Some wanted more updates. Others wanted fewer emails. And at first glance, the responses seemed contradictory. The team could have walked away believing communication was simply just complicated. But when they started looking for patterns, something else emerged. Teachers weren't actually asking for more communication. They were asking for more predictable communication. Information was being shared through emails, text messages, meeting notes, and then you add in the informal conversations. Heck, they were sharing information in calendar invites, had hallway reminders up. So the problem wasn't volume. The problem was it was very fragmented. And that distinction matters. Because once this team identified the actual issue, the solution became obvious. Instead of sending more information, they created one consistent weekly communication structure. And then the following year, complaints dropped off significantly. I mean, it's the same staff, same leaders, same building, but they had a different understanding. And that's what effective reflection does. It helps us move beyond individual comments and identify the systems that are underneath those. Because systems can be improved, random observations can't. And as leaders, one of the most valuable questions we can ask during reflection is this: what patterns keep showing up regardless of who is talking? When multiple people identify the same tension from different perspectives, we're probably getting close to something important, and that's where improvement begins. Not in collecting more information, but in finding meaning inside the information that we already have.
There's a moment every educator knows when the to-do list gets longer than the school day. That's where ClassBridge AI comes in. Turn ideas into lesson materials, activities, and classroom resources in minutes, so you can spend less time building and more time teaching. ClassBridge AI. Work smarter in the classroom.
Are you ready to transform your school or classroom? Join hosts Adam and Jim on 𝗘𝗍𝗆, the monthly podcast on the Forward Ed Network. Every episode, they bring in top educators from across the United States to deliver 3 game-changing insights: something you can control in your work, something that will shift your thinking, and something you can use to lead tomorrow. Don't just manage, lead. Subscribe to 𝗘𝗍𝗆 today.
This segment is sponsored by Grundmeyer Leader Services. Since 2013, GLS has been a trusted partner for school districts across the Midwest, specializing in executive recruitment and leadership support. They believe that great schools start with great leaders, and they are here to help you find the perfect fit for your district. Transform your school's future with the right leader. Visit GrundmeyerLeaderSearch.com to learn more. Grundmeyer Leader Services, transforming education one leader at a time.
One of the easiest traps in school leadership is solving the wrong problem, and this happens all the time. A team notices intervention isn't producing the results they hope for, so they redesign the intervention. Or a principal hears concerns about initiative fatigue, so they reduce initiatives. A department reports weak engagement. They purchase a new program. And sometimes those decisions do help, but sometimes they don't. Because often what we're seeing is a symptom rather than a cause. Think about the phrase, "Our staff feels overwhelmed." I mean, we hear that all the time, right? And it's a real concern. But it isn't a cause, it's an outcome. The leadership question is, why? What is creating that experience? Is it initiative overload, meeting overload? Maybe it's just unclear expectations or too many competing priorities. Is it a lack of systems? A lack of consistency? The answer matters because every one of those causes I just listed requires a different response. It reminds me of something my friend Dr. Jill Urich often says. The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. That idea has stayed with me because I've seen it played out repeatedly in schools. A district adopts a strong instructional framework. The framework itself is really solid. It's research-based. It's well-designed. It's built around good practice. But implementation happens during a year filled with staff shortages, maybe schedule changes, and frankly, other competing initiatives. 6 months later, people conclude the framework didn't work. And maybe it didn't. Or maybe the timing didn't. Maybe the implementation didn't. Maybe the support systems weren't ready. I mean, this is a very different conclusion. Strong leaders learn to separate the quality of an idea from the quality of its execution, because those are not always the same thing, and that's why reflection matters. It's not to assign blame, and it's not to defend decisions, but instead it's to understand what actually happened. And when leadership teams get honest about causes instead of symptoms, their future decisions become dramatically better because now they're solving the right problem.
Strong schools don't just happen in classrooms. They happen in conversations. BrightPath Family Connect helps schools and families stay aligned with simple updates, reminders, and meaningful communication that actually gets seen. Because when families are informed, students are supported. BrightPath Family Connect. Better connection, better learning.
For students wondering what comes next and how to get there, there's Next Step Scholar, a platform that helps learners explore careers, build direction, and take meaningful steps toward their future. Not overwhelming, just clearer paths forward. Next Step Scholar. Every future starts with a next step.
As we move through June, something interesting happens in schools. The urgency starts to fade, the meetings slow down, the calendars begin to open. And for the first time in months, leaders have a little space to think. My encouragement today is very simple. Just use that space wisely. And don't use it to create another initiative or to add another goal. I would even say don't use it to build a bigger plan. Use it to think clearly about what this year has taught you. Because every school is finishing this year with valuable information. The question is whether that information becomes wisdom. I've seen leadership teams spend weeks analyzing data and then still struggle to identify their next steps. I've also seen teams spend one focused afternoon identifying a handful of meaningful lessons that shaped an entire school year. The difference isn't the amount of reflection, it's the quality of thinking. As you look back on this year, ask yourself a few questions. What patterns kept appearing? What challenges were actually symptoms of something deeper? What decisions helped move the work forward? Which ones created friction? And perhaps most importantly, what have we learned that we are unwilling to ignore? Because reflection should lead somewhere. It should change priorities, influence decisions. It should shape how we lead. Some of you are listening, you're already on summer break. Others, you still might have students in the building. Either way, you're standing at one of the most important leadership moments of the year. The conversations you have now become the priorities that you will carry into August. The priorities you carry into August become the systems your staff experience. And the systems your staff experience become the culture your students feel. That's why this work matters. Not because reflection is important, but because better thinking today creates better schools tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the work, and thank you for spending your time with us today. We really, truly appreciate everything you do for your students and your community here at Forward Ed Network. We'll talk with you again next week on Your Morning Boost.
That's your morning boost from AWB Education and Media. If this episode helped you reset your thinking or take your next step forward, share it with a colleague. And don't forget to subscribe so your next boost is ready when you need it. Keep showing up with intention. Keep moving forward, and we'll see you next time.